how's it going? Gabriel here. So this video is titled, "There is no grand scientific conspiracy that is hiding the truth from you." And the first thing that I want to make clear in this video, to counter the people who are inevitably going to accuse me of being a NASA shill or whatever, as has already been done in my video from just a couple of days ago against the flat Earth conspiracy theory, saying that I do believe in a globular Earth. And so I just want to give a quick little bit of information here to go on, so that you have some sort of a sense of who is this guy making, my arguments here. So I'm here in Cuenca, Ecuador. I am a world traveler. I am, for the most part, a rather broke world traveler. I travel around the world. I have another YouTube channel titled Gabriel Traveler, in which I document my travels and I show people how they also can travel the world on a very tight budget. I am not some rich dude with connections. I have absolutely no connections to NASA in any way, shape, or form. I have a Bachelor of Arts in World Religions. I am a truth seeker. I am seeking to understand how the world and the universe works in reality, and what is the potential spiritual reality, because I believe in a spiritual realm as well. But I also believe in science. I believe that science, especially over the past century or so, has done an amazing job at figuring out the nature of physical reality. And so the point of this video is to counter what I see as a very rampant phenomenon that is going on, which I have labeled conspiracy paranoia syndrome. And it is abundant in this day of so much information that is available to people, sifting through all kinds of weird, strange, crazy, out there kinds of theories, and trying to make sense of the world on their own and figure out what reality really is. I disagree with the assertion by many that there is this grand conspiracy going on in which the truth of the world and the universe is being completely hidden from us in this grand illusory conspiracy that is hiding just basic facts from us that the commonly accepted mainstream views are totally and completely, wrong, and all lies and a fabrication by the powers that be. Now, I understand completely distrust of the government and government programs. I am no fan of the United States government. I'm a U.S. citizen. The foreign policy and how they treat their citizens and, all this kind of stuff. But that does not mean that everything that the government says is wrong, that the truth is always the opposite of what the mainstream accepted, beliefs are. So I think that there is a great deal of anti-establishment mentality that is clouding the actual quest for truth, that is just so bogged down in conspiracy, paranoia, and distrust that people are believing all these totally just absolutely whacked out theories that you can debunk for yourself with your own personal firsthand experience and research, and I'm going to illustrate that in just a second. Now, what I would say is that there absolutely are conspiracies going on. My point is that in my view, then, there is not this grand conspiracy that is hiding, virtually everything, and that the truth is just totally, completely upside down, back asswards. I believe that science as presented to us is, for the most part, accurate as far as how the world and the universe really works. And I'm going to expand on that further. That is actually my main point that I'll get to in just a little bit here. But as I see it, then, there are conspiracies going on, for sure. I would say that for the most part, they are a matter of, backroom politics, manipulating economics and geopolitical events that are shaping our societies to a certain extent, affecting our education systems, dumbing people down, news and media manipulation that is primarily a matter of what is focused on, as opposed to that it's all fabricated, that it's all fake, it's actors and all this kind of stuff. This is just totally ridiculous in my opinion. There is not this conspiracy to the extent that the shape of the Earth is being hidden from us, that the moon is not what it actually appears to be, that the sun is actually hovering right on top of the planet, as opposed to being 93 million miles away. And so, in the course of this flat Earth discussion that I have, put myself in the middle of by making a video on it, then people have presented all of these just completely ridiculous theories and models and whatnot that are totally divorced from reality. And so I'm going to mention a couple of those here and then get on to the main point that I want to make in this video. But as an example, there are videos online of supposed images showing the sun with clouds that are both in front of the sun and behind the sun. And then people are saying, here's photographic evidence that the sun is just a few miles off of the surface of the Earth, hovering there, tangled up in the clouds. And so I'm going to show you that image right now and then show you why that is completely impossible. So here is your evidence that the sun is clearly just a few short miles right above the Earth. There you can see it kind of sort of vaguely maybe a little bit looks like there's some clouds that are behind the sun, or are they just a little fluff of clouds that are on top of the sun and the light of the sun is shining through them and so they don't appear so clearly. Folks, this is not any sort of substantive proof that the sun is somehow hovering smack on top of the planet Earth. And just to give credit where credit is due, this is the video Clouds Behind the Sun, Solar Disk Video Footage and Sunspot Photos by Jeranism. And so here's some information on how high clouds hover above the Earth. The lowest ones are 6,500 feet, so around 2 kilometers. The medium ones are 6,500 to 13,000 feet, so 2 to 4 kilometers. The highest ones are 10,000 to 25,000 feet, 3 to 8 kilometers. Now there are actually clouds that hover much higher than that, like more than 50 miles above the Earth. However, those cannot be seen, so those could not in any way, shape, or form be the clouds that are supposedly hiding behind the sun in that other video. And finally, here's some information on how high planes fly. A typical commercial jet, most standard flights, cruise at around 28,000 to 35,000 feet, up to 6.6 miles of altitude, so well above the highest of the clouds that you can see. The main exception is Concorde, which was designed to fly at a even higher altitude, at around 45,000 feet. So those planes are way above the highest of the clouds that you can see in the sky. So I have actually done this experiment for myself. I've flown around the world a lot in the course of my travels. When you're flying over the Pacific Ocean, you are way the hell above the cloud layer, and yet you can see the sun, and it looks exactly as far away as it does when you're on the ground. And so how could anyone for a second believe this theory that the sun, rather than being 93 million miles away from us, is just a few miles above the Earth, tangled up in the clouds there, and somehow the scientists of the world are all hiding this from us? This is just so far out there absurd. To simply look at that image that I showed you and say, whoa, proof, absolute proof, the sun is right there in the clouds. There are some clouds that are slightly above the image of the sun there, and then because of the way that the light is shining from the sun, and the sun is partly obscured and partly not, that is just a completely normal image that says nothing. For people to grasp onto this and make a video about it and say here's proof that the sun is a few miles away is just completely whacked out. Somebody else suggested that the moon could possibly be some sort of a holographic image being projected onto the sky. Imagine that. I mean, we have, pretty advanced technology these days, right? That could maybe be possible. Could that be possible? How long have humans been talking about the moon? Was this image created by Stanley Kubrick back in the 1960s. Wait, but humans have been talking about the moon in written texts for 5,000 or 6,000 years. Anyone heard of Zecharia Sitchin, the 12th planet? The Mesopotamian texts, the 12 planets as referred to by Zecharia Sitchin, and I don't even necessarily trust his interpretation of those Mesopotamian scrolls, but the 12 planets that are referred to in the 12th planet, the book, and then he has a whole series of books, I've read a few of them, then it is the Earth, the Moon, the Sun. Those are the three first planetary bodies, and then the other 8 planets, which makes 11, and then so the 12th planet refers to the possibility of Nibiru, planet X, which he says has this massive elliptical orbit that comes into our solar system every, I think, 3,500 years. And so, you know, there you get your other theory about Planet X, and I will say that that is actually one that I am open-minded about. There could be a Planet X that we're not seeing, that is a, you know, possibly a brown dwarf star that is not able to be viewed with, you know, typical telescopes that people can buy, and so I don't know if that's scientifically sound in any possible way, but I'm at least open to that, you know, that conspiracy theory as maybe being plausible. However, the moon being a holographic projection that was created 5,000 years ago and is still in use, people have been talking about the moon for this whole time. I mean, that's, you know, that just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And yet people are, you know, just glance at a theory and then say, oh, it must be true. It's proof, absolute proof that the Earth is flat and the sun is, you know, a few miles away and stuff like this. So this conspiracy paranoia syndrome is really clouding the quest for truth. And this is a problem because people are just getting all whacked out on all these, you know, spending all their time and energy trying to prove the flat Earth theory, when this theory and so many others of them simply do not in any way, shape, or form go along with scientific principles that have been proven. And so here I finally get to the main point that I actually want to make in this video, which is about the possibility of a grand scientific conspiracy in which the scientists of the world are all fooling us, are hiding, you know, just the most fundamental aspects of our world that we hold true. People like to say, you know, you believe in the globe Earth model because it's been indoctrinated into you through our education system since you were, you know, 3 years old and saw your first globe, and so it's just so deeply ingrained in your subconscious mind, and you're so attached to it that you cannot open your mind enough to see other possibilities, and so this, you know, this is what is hampering the real quest for truth because of people's grasping onto that which they have, you know, been told is true for their whole life, and you know, stuff like this. The problem is that the science shows that the current accepted mainstream model is absolutely correct and has been confirmed in tons and tons of different ways by thousands and thousands of different people. And so at the heart of all of these conspiracy theories, in which they're saying that the shadow elites are hiding from you, you know, basic aspects of our world. And yes, I do believe that there is a shadow elite, you know, world government of some sort. But the problem is that people think that these people can just do anything, that they are, you know, supermen with amazing, you know, powers of manipulation, and that they just have no limits or whatever. And if you believe this, then you don't understand how the scientific community works. All right, and I'm sorry if that sounds a little talking down or whatever, but that's at the heart of this whole situation, this whole conspiracy paranoid thing, is that people think that the scientific community is some sort of elitist organization of sort of a select few members that are controlling and dispensing the information at their will, and they're just kind of feeding out these theories and ideas to humanity, who are then just lapping it up and saying, well, this must be the way that the world is. And that is just not the way that science works. That's categorically, completely incorrect, untrue. If you believe that, then you don't understand, you don't get it. The scientific community is the people. The scientific community is the people. The scientific community is not some elite organization that is, corresponds with the Illuminati. The information that we are reading in various books that you can find, you can go to the bookstore and you can, find a book from such and such independent scientist who has done their own personal independent research in order to come to their conclusions. The scientific community is thousands and thousands and thousands of different independent individuals who are doing their own independent research. The scientific method is a method that is basically a wrestling match. It is, you put a theory out there and everybody attacks it and tears it apart. There isn't some sort of, 10 people are sitting in a back room somewhere and they say, okay, what's the theory that we're going to put out there, discuss it, okay, we'll go with this. All right, send it to, CNN, and then it gets broadcast, and that's what the scientific information is that the world then laps up. It doesn't work like that at all. There are tons of different journals, there are books, there are lectures, there are workshops, there are conferences, there are videos. Scientific information is being shared, dispensed, argued about in countless different means, and the scientists are all arguing with each other. They are tearing apart other people's theories, and if somebody presents a theory and everybody tries to tear it apart, and then that theory survives, it's like, throw somebody into the crocodile lake, and if they make it to the shore, okay, that guy is worth something. That theory has some legitimacy to it because it survived the attempts to tear it down. And so once multiple different individuals doing their own independent research try to tear apart a theory by testing it, researching it, etc., and then they determine, I can't poke a hole in this theory. I can't tear it apart. It makes sense. It explains the way that the world works. This particular, aspect of whatever we're looking at. There are no, glaring inconsistencies. Then that is considered to be a proven theory. When, multiple different people testing it in lots of different ways, all independently come to the same conclusion. Okay, this theory makes sense. This works. But it's not just a theory. Then they take that theory and they apply it to the real world, and they go and create stuff with it. And so they create all of our, modern technology, this camera here, and my laptop computer, and airplanes, and then they are able to apply the laws that they have learned in such a way that you can get on an airplane, and flying in an airplane is safer than walking down the street, because they have mastered the physics such that you can fly across the oceans above the cloud layer, as I mentioned, around the globe, and you can get to your destination despite the variable weather conditions, despite the tremendous forces that are at play with a massive, massive object that is hurtling through the air, something that we thought that was completely impossible, not that long ago. And you can experience this for yourself, get on an airplane and go do it, and you feel safe flying an airplane, probably, unless you're afraid of flying, but flying is the most safe form of transportation there is, because of the mastery of these laws of physics, because of the theories that scientists developed and then have been able to apply to the real world. So meanwhile, you have these people that are on the internet looking at images, and there's another one that I was watching recently, and it's a guy that's watching the sunset, and he shows a time lapse of the sunset, and he says, what's with the trajectory of that sun? That doesn't make sense for something that's 93 million miles away. That looks to me more like it's a lot closer. That's it. That's his evidence. He looks at the sun and says, it doesn't look like it's that far away to me. And then that's his scientific evidence. Can you take that kind of scientific inquiry and actually apply it to the real world in such a way that demonstrates that you actually have a genuine understanding of the laws of physics that are going on, on this planet and in this universe? I'll take the scientific method over guys just looking at images and then saying, oh, that looks weird. It can't be true. The sun can't be 93 million miles away, despite the fact that there are astronomers galore with their own telescopes, independent individuals who are peering out into space and can look at the moon and say, it is not a holographic image created by Stanley Kubrick. And yes, the sun is a hell of a lot farther away than hovering in the cloud layer 5 miles above the Earth. So there you go. That's my take on this whole idea that the shadow elite government Illuminati matrix is hiding from us basic aspects of our very world that we experience for ourselves. So many of these theories you can debunk for yourself very quickly, especially if you are not stuck in a closed-minded perspective of your own, even as you are seeking truth, of saying that this has to be right, and whatever the mainstream beliefs are, they have to be wrong, so therefore something else has to be right, which I think is what's going on with a lot of people, is that they just have such a knee-jerk rebellious reaction to any kind of authoritative information that they're saying that can't possibly be the case, so what's the alternate theory? And then they're considering all these, flat Earth, concave Earth, hollow Earth, the sun is in the clouds and the moon is just a hologram, and all this kind of stuff. Meanwhile, then I will take the words and the conclusions of thousands and thousands of scientists who are doing real work, real research, very rigorous, specific testing that requires all kinds of different factors, and taking in all of the scientific knowledge that has been learned previously and applying it to their research, and in the process narrowing down in the quest for truth what could actually be true. And yes, discarding theories that no longer work, it is a evolving process in which new theories and understandings are replacing older ones when a newer one is presented that fits better. And so, I don't believe at all that the current scientific conception of our world is absolutely the way that it is, that it's, we got it all figured out. No way. There's, a lot more to learn. It's almost as if the more we learn, the more we realize, how much more there is to learn. And so there are still mysteries, there are absolutely still unanswered questions. But the vast bulk of the scientific conclusions that are currently accepted have been shown to be true in countless different, independent, separate conclusions by different organizations, individuals, etc., doing their own independent research, in which when there is a discrepancy, when there is a difference, that's published, that is announced, that is part of the discussion, the argument, in the process of trying to figure out what truth is. And this is not something that is exclusive to some shadow elite. You know, all of the air pilots of the world are in on the grand conspiracy, and you know, all of the sailors of the world, and you know, anyone with any authority, position of power in the government or whatever, is all part of the conspiracy, because that's what it would have to be to hide that the earth is flat, is that your local community college and the scientists they'd have to be in on the conspiracy too, because they can do their own testing and they can figure it out for themselves in lots of different ways. So it just makes no sense to think that the scientific community, thousands of separate individuals, are all part of this thing to hide, you know, what the moon is and what the sun is and what the earth is, and all this. So that's my take on the subject. Thanks a lot for watching. Take it easy. I'm a fan of Graham Hancock, and so, you know, his work is mostly looking back at ancient history, and I think that there are a lot of misunderstandings about how old the pyramids are. All these ancient sites around the world. I just went to Machu Picchu, although I think that one's pretty well established. The Incan Empire was a short-lived empire that was relatively recently, but various other ancient sites around the world that it's really a lot of conjecture as to you know, how old they are, what the purpose was, who made them, how they made them. I believe that there was the fall of Atlantis. There's an amazing book titled Cataclysm. I think came out in the 90s, but it is scientific evidence written by two authors with scientific backgrounds researching this plethora of evidence all around the world that shows that there was in fact a cosmic catastrophe about 12,000 years ago. It shows that there was worldwide devastation. It may very well have resulted in the shifting of the Earth's axis, that the Earth's axis actually may have been straight up and down prior to that, and then because of the immense magnitude of that disaster, it got put at the current tilt, creating our seasons in the world that we know now. And so that's a whole other theory that I don't want to get lost in. But for one thing, I think that there is a difference between seeking to interpret the past versus the scientific principles that we have come to conclude are the case in our current world, trying to interpret what civilization created this, how did they do it, who were they, the clues are very scant. And so I don't believe that it is so much a matter of a conspiracy in that regard, even though that would be a massive shifting of our understanding of Earth's past if that was the case, because I believe, just based on what I've seen, that there were very advanced civilizations in our distant past that have to a great extent been lost in time. The Bosnian pyramids, science currently, archaeologists completely reject those, and just from what I've seen of them so far, then I think there's something to them, and they may very well be pyramids that are evidence of a advanced ancient civilization. But that's a different story from science currently determining the nature of reality and physics and everything and how that works. And so kind of my point is that, as I see them, there are pockets of misunderstandings, of wrong information. I mean, obviously there are science does not have everything absolutely correct, but that there may be these sort of mini conspiracies going on of certain things that are being hidden from the public domain, but that the mainstream information that is out there currently of what the Earth is, what the sun is, what the moon is, gravity, the speed of light, the speed of sound, all this kind of stuff has been confirmed by not just the president announcing in a press conference or the head of NASA or whatever, but thousands of independent scientists independently researching and testing this stuff in order to figure out what is true, and ultimately coming to the same conclusions, and then that is how you create a proven theory. It's not some elite organization just leaking information to the public.